Magandang araw, Podmates! Howie Severino muli na nagpapaalala na nakakatalino ang mahabang attention span. After nearly 7 years in prison, former Senator Leila de Lima has resumed life in freedom. How has she adjusted to the outside world? How will she now use her stature and international platform? She joins us today. Magandang araw sa inyo, Attorney de Lima.
Yes, magandang araw, Howie, sa mga nanonood sa iyo. Wow, it's so nice to see you again.
Yeah, and it's great to see you in your home, no? Nasa sala kayo ngayon ng bahay nyo. Finally at home.
Yes. And I'm well adjusted now, actually. Unlike the first week, talagang halos hindi ako makatulog the first few nights because I still keep on remembering actually my home there at the PNP Custodial Center. But now I'm adjusted and I've been so busy.
Okay, I want to ask you about this adjustment, no? Kasi it's now February. You were released last November.
Yes.
So 3 buwan nang nakalipas.
Yes.
So kamusta na kayo, no? What have you been doing in these past 3 months? And what has been the biggest adjustment for you to being free again after nearly 7 years in prison?
My first adjustment, of course, is my environment, because from a life of solitude, a solitary environment, then I'm suddenly plunged into the real world of noise, of busy schedule. So that was really my first adjustment. I found it difficult really to cope with that. And then the traffic and all that. So I've been so busy with private meetings, with speaking engagements, with small reunions with friends, with relatives. And I went to our home city, Iriga City, and visited my mom twice already. And I spent several days there in Christmas. And it was my happiest but very emotional holidays ever, because I got to be with my mom because we were not able to see each other for more than 4 years. So that was pretty emotional, the several days I had with her during Christmas. But even if I was there, napaka-busy ko pa rin doon sa dami ng mga taong pumupunta, wanted to see me, wanted to really say hi, and then most of them are even teary-eyed. And so I thank them all for their prayers and their compassion.
So I wanted to ask you about your visits with your mom. Sabi niyo nga, you visited her twice already. So she must be quite aged by now. So how much of your ordeal have you shared with her?
She doesn't know. She never knew.
Doesn't know.
Until now that I was locked up in jail. What she was told by my siblings is that I was just in the United States for studies. So she didn't know. But Howie, I could feel that she knows. Maybe it's the mother's instincts. So hindi lang siya nagsasalita. Although my mom is now semi-demented, sometimes she would recognize and sometimes she would be lucid, but sometimes she's now a childlike person. But she she always remembers me. She always recognizes me. The same thing with my siblings. But other people, sometimes she would recognize, sometimes she would not. That's what we know, that she never knew that I came from jail.
And I guess, was this your decision, or was this a family decision not to let her know? I'm sure this is such a big decision on your part, no? Kasi may pros and cons yan, of course, no?
It was a family decision, but it was my siblings, my 2 brothers and 1 sister, who brought the idea. Let's not tell mom anymore. It might exacerbate her health condition. Baka lalo daw mapadali. Because we even thought 4 years ago she would leave us na. That's why I had to ask for an emergency furlough. I had to go there to Iriga. For 24 hours, I was allowed by the court to visit her because we thought she was saying goodbye already. Thankfully, she held on. Thankfully, she's surviving. And when I was still in jail, that's part of my prayers that sana naman, Lord, hintayin pa ako ni Mommy na makalaya. And it was an answered prayer. Yes.
Yes, quite a blessing, no? So, Attorney De Lima, para kang kinala sa lipunan ng 7 taon, ano? I am sure you're familiar with the tale of Rip Van Winkle, no? Pero natulog naman yon. Pero ikaw, you were in isolation for a long time. Hindi ka nakakalabas, except for, you just mentioned you're allowed to visit your mom. I think you were also allowed to go out for some of your hearings. Pero sabi mo sa ibang interviews, no, wala kang cellphone sa loob ng preso, wala kang access sa internet.
Yes.
Madalas, lalo na ng pandemya, wala ka man lang dayo, no? Ngayon na nakakagala kayo ulit, sabi mo nga, you're so busy socially, professionally, you're getting back to the grind as a lawyer. Have you noticed any big changes in the world outside of prison?
Not really. In a way, it's still the same world, especially in the realm of politics, although it's getting more exciting with all of this noise, with all of this bickerings. So it's still the same world, although I could not really witness that totally when I was there, because as you said, no internet, no TV, no radio, just really newspapers. My access to news was through print media. And then my staff also used to send me what they call comms or media pouch, where they collate and print notable articles that I got to see. But so I was updated, but not completely. I could not really completely see the whole scenery, the whole scene, the whole environment of what was happening outside. So there's not much really I miss, except the personal side of things. When I was deprived of the mundane things, which I used to think them as merely mundane, but they're not. They're so important to me. Going to the market, cooking, being with my sons, being with my grandchildren. Those the realization that they're all so important for me, because that's the whole idea, Howie. The whole agenda of my persecutors was to silence me, to break my spirit, to keep me out of the world so that I would stop making noise on the things that I held dear, the advocacies that I've been propagating.
Gusto kong balikan tong na-deprive kayo ng internet access and mobile phone. I know that's the rule pag nasa preso, but we do know that that rule is just commonly violated. No, I mean even non-VIP
Yes.
inmates have access to mobile. I know this because some inmates
Yes.
message journalists all the time, no, from inside Bilibid, etc. No, so in a way, you got special treatment in that way. Not just those jailed for criminal charges or convicted, no, but even those may mga political cases, as we know, no, na meron silang access sa internet and sa cell phone, no. So why were you deprived of a cell phone when others were not?
Okay, I'm perfectly aware of that. Even in the custodial center before, had access to that. My guards would tell me that they had cell phones, but it was a personal decision to follow the rules. Some of my staff would tell me, "Ma'am, kung gugustuhin niyo, madali hong mag-smuggle ng cellphone sa inyo. We can very well do that. Madali lang po." But I told them, napagalitan ko pa nga sila. I really told them, no, let's follow the rules. I want to follow the rules. Anyway, I can still communicate to the outside world through my written communications, letters, birthday greetings, letters of condolences, congratulatory letters. So that's how I communicated to the whole world. Maski yung mga sa Twitter, yung mga yung sa X, yung mga nagtitweet din ako noon, but through my staff, I just write it down and then send them out. Ask a guard to send it out because hindi naman bawal na nagko-communicate to them through handwritten materials. So they're the ones who post those messages of mine, my statements of mine via FB or Twitter, and they're the ones who disseminate them to media. So that was a personal decision.
Okay, I
Yes.
want to ask you about that, no, because it's just one of these personal decisions that have kind of um not just intrigued others, but maybe even amazed na pinili nyo yung iba't ibang aspeto ng inyong oppression. No? Sabi nga, you could have easily had a cell phone and had access to all of your loved ones, no? Through mobile if you had wanted to, pero gusto niyo sumunod sa rules, no? And then also, I know that you were traveling abroad when you had an inkling na maaresto kayo. So you had a choice actually to seek political asylum overseas para lang maiwasan yung maaresto at makulong. At maintindihan yan ng mga kaalyado nyo siguro, kahit yung mga bumoto sa inyo. It hasn't been the first time, no, that someone has sought asylum overseas. Pero pinili nyong umuwi, no, to face the music, ika nga. At the same time, you also said that akala mo ilang araw ka lang makukulong, no? At makakalaya ka kaagad. Pero umabot nga ng 7 taon. But what I'm saying is you've shown a remarkable faith in the system.
Yes.
Which from many outsiders has failed you. And looking back now, would you have made the same decisions?
Yes. I because you know how I'm innocent. So you're correct. In December, when I went to the United States to receive an award from the Foreign Policy magazine, from there I went to Germany for a speaking engagement. That was December 2016. And as you said, I had an inkling already. I had sources within the DOJ who relayed the message to me that the DOJ would soon be filing cases against me and they would be arresting me. That's what then President Duterte was aiming for. He really wanted me locked up in jail. But I chose to come back because I'm innocent. I was not afraid to face the charges against me. And even if the justice system has initially failed me, I still maintain my faith in it because I felt, and until now, that it is through the justice system that I would attain my vindication. There's no other way that I would attain vindication. I have to be absolved by the courts. The courts had to say that those charges were baseless so that I could redeem my name that were so destroyed, that were so vilified by my oppressors and persecutors. So it's a choice that I have to put faith in the justice system. And as a lawyer, I have to. It would mean a lot if I decided to turn back from the justice system and try to demean also the justice system. It is through the justice system. There is no other way that I could attain vindication. In fact, my first 2 cases had been dismissed already. I was acquitted in those 2 cases. There's this remaining case where I am out on bail on provisional liberty. You've seen the reports about some or many of the inmate witnesses against me have signified their intention to recant. Now, that would be really the start of my vindication, that these perjured witnesses are now getting the courage, mustering enough courage to tell us the truth. I want them to tell the truth so that the people would know about my innocence.
Okay, but when you were overseas and thinking about returning to seek vindication, no, and face the judicial system, did you think that prison was your only risk, or a long time in prison was the only risk? Because at that time, 2016, no, ang dami nang namamatay sa so-called drug war, and we know that ilang buwan nang nagrarant, no, si Pangulong Duterte about you. So he was not fond of you, to say the least, no. Uh, were there other fears aside from prison when you were deciding to go home?
My friends had cautioned me, it would be risky for you. Alam mo naman ang kapasidad ng chief oppressor mo. So you can be targeted anytime. And even if you're in prison, you can be targeted. Yes, the fear was there, but my longing for vindication far outweigh those fears. Far outweighs those fears. I I should move on. I should go on proclaiming my innocence.
I wanted to also ask you about life in prison, but how did you? I know that you had something like 20 cats, and all of these were adopted, or meron bang dinala sa preso galing sa bahay? Were you a cat lover before already?
No, I was never a cat lover. I was a dog lover. Before I got incarcerated, I had only dogs. I didn't have cats because my dogs hated cats, so I hated na rin cats. But when I was incarcerated, I had no choice because cats kept coming to my quarters, especially during meal time. So there's more than 20. Most of them were actually just stray who would just appear there in my detention cell. About 3 or 4 were gifted to me by my staff and by my friend. 2 of them are among the 3 that I get to bring home here. So much as I would want to bring home everyone, each and every single cat that I had there, I could not do that. There's simply no space in my house, and there are dogs here also. So I just brought home my 5 favorites, and Otto happened to be one of them. You know why it's called Otto? Because you
Bakit?
see, I had movie privileges, just like the other detainees there. Every Saturday, I was allowed to watch movie from 1 to 5 in the afternoon. Nung kitten pa siya, one of the guards brought that to me. Ma'am, kawawa naman po, iniwanan po nung ina, so paki-adopt because they know that I've been adopting cats there. So at that time, when this was given to me, I just finished watching A Man Called Otto. So I named the cat Otto.
So, how did the cats affect your life in prison?
Oh, they were so significant in terms of my mental health, in terms of keeping my sanity intact. They're such a joy, even if makukulit, they have different characters, just like human beings. But they really made my life there beautiful. They soothe the sadness that I felt at times because I played with them, I fed them, and so very important. These are blessings to me also, Howie.
Nung pandemya at lahat tayo na lockdown, ang dami nagkaroon ng pets. So you're one of millions around the world who turn to pets for our mental health, basically, to maintain whatever was left of it during the pandemic. No, but I want to ask also what you think was your darkest time or moments in prison.
There is no particular darkest time, but there were several really where I felt deep sadness. And that's when, loved ones and allies and friends would leave the world. For example, the death of my only sister-in-law, the death of PNoy, of Sec Dinky, of Sec Mon Jimenez. So I felt really deep sadness. It was revolting to me that I would not be able to pay my last respects to them. And another moment of sadness is when I was not allowed to attend the graduation ceremony of my son, Vincent, who eventually became a lawyer. The courts did not allow me to attend the graduation of my son. That was painful to me.
Because I recall that other inmates, even fellow senators, were allowed to to be given that privilege. No, they were allowed to attend certain events outside of prison before returning, before returning to jail. But ikaw, hindi ka pinayagan at all, except for that visit to your mom, which you mentioned earlier.
Visit to my mom and occasional medical furloughs for 24 hours or 48 hours, because I made sure that I would undergo annual medical examination, checkup, even when I was in jail. So the court would allow me for either 24 hours or 48 hours for said purpose. But other than that, I was not allowed. Oh, the Thanksgiving of my son, I was allowed, I think, 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours to attend that when he passed the bar.
Well, congratulations to him, no? In October 2022, hinostage kayo, no, ng mga inmates who belong to the Abu Sayyaf, no? This is already during the Marcos administration. You did mention that as one of your darkest times.
Oh, I just forgot about it. It's really one of my darkest times, scariest. Yes, it's the scariest, because who would imagine that would happen to me? That would happen in such facility as the PNP Custodial Center, and it was so harrowing. It was the scariest moment of my life, because I thought that was the end of me, because the hostage taker was dead serious. He was suicidal. So he wanted to take me with him when he saw that it was, he was becoming desperate already, because he saw that there were snipers about to take him down. So he said, "You better come with me. You will die also, Mom." So he kept on saying that, "You will die also." He would still call me Mom when we were exchanging talks while I was being held hostage.
Ano yung weapon niya?
It was an improvised knife. Now it never penetrated, because he constantly pressed it on my chest the whole time. And then minsan nga talagang maano ang pagkaka-press niya, so I would cry, "Ang sakit, wag naman ganyan." So he would adjust it a little, and then after a while, ganun na naman, he would press it hard. It really caused trauma, chest trauma, for several days. It was painful, my chest and even my back. So I had to be confined in the hospital for several days after that incident. So traumatic.
Yeah, and while you were his hostage, you were blindfolded and
Yes,
tied?
blindfolded, hand tied dito sa likod, and then feet. My feet were also tied all the time. So I could just hear what he was saying and what was happening. I could hear the negotiator when he came. The negotiator, Director Pespes, who was then the director of the headquarters support service, and I was fortunate to have him as the negotiator, because he thought fast. He did his part, and he was the one who shot the hostage taker when he saw that my life was at serious risk.
So that's how it ended, no? I recall from a previous conversation we had, no? It was humingi siya ng tubig, and then habang inaabot yung tubig sa kanya ng negotiator na to, bumunot na ng baril, no? Yung police negotiator, and shot him.
Yes. Hindi kasi pinagbigyan yung mga hiling, the requests, the demands of the hostage taker were C-130 plane, military plane, where he could be brought to Sulu. He also asked for a Hummer getaway vehicle, and he also wanted media. He wanted to talk to media. The negotiator, Director Pespes, was bidding for time. I knew that they would not, of course, accede to his demands. He was saying that that's not within my authority. Titingnan ko lang ang magagawa ko kung kaya namin yan. And even when he was telling me, the hostage taker, to demand for those, I was telling him, I am in no position to ask for those because I'm also a detainee and I'm no longer in government. How could I ask for those things? And even in fact, I'm an opposition member. So hindi naman naniniwala yung hostage taker, ma'am, kaya nyo yan, meron pa ho kayong influenza. Sabi ko hindi. So even the hostage negotiator was saying that. So but when he sensed that those demands are not being met, that's when he said, oras na ma'am, mamamatay na tayo. And I got so scared when he started praying Islamic in Arabic. Sabi ko, naku, seryoso talaga to na mamamatay at papatayin din ako. I think he's asking for forgiveness already from Allah or saying goodbye already. So I started praying na rin quietly while I was blindfolded. And I was saying, Lord, bahala na po kayo sa pamilya ko, bahala na po kayo sa akin. Pero sana, Lord, and that was my request, is that sana po, sandali lang. Kung sasaksakin niya ako, one shot lang, para I don't suffer anymore, that there would be no bleeding to death or slow death. So that was my request. And then suddenly, when he stopped praying, he suddenly asked for water. Well, he's probably thirsty. But I was told later that asking for water and taking it was part of the ritual, saying goodbye ritual. So when I told him, because I was blindfolded and hand-tied, I said, gusto ko po ng tubig, ma'am. Sabi ko, dyan, gumanon ako. Because my dispenser, my water dispenser was at my right side. So he said, no, hindi po, dapat po siya ang kumuha ng water para sa akin, referring to Director Pespes. So I said, Director, gusto daw po niya ng tubig. But after saying that, I started praying again. So I didn't know anymore what was happening. The next thing I knew, there were shots. So later, it was close range shot. It was on my right side because the hostage taker was in front of me with his knife pressed on my chest, constantly pressed on my chest. And according to the director, so when he saw that my life was in serious danger, he was determined already to take him down. But he was just waiting for the right timing. So that's the right timing when the hostage taker asked for water. But then, according to Director Pespes, I also wanted to make sure about two things. First, whether meron pang ibang daladalang armas yung hostage taker, like for example, a hand grenade. And because that would be, dangerous. He could not just shoot the hostage taker kung meron siyang granada. And also, he wanted to make sure daw na hindi ako magalaw, malikot. Kasi kung malikot ako, then it's also risky to just shoot the hostage taker. Baka kasi ako ang matamaan. So when he was nearing the hostage taker, with a glass of water daw, he saw na wala namang hand grenade at nakita daw niya ako. I was so still. He thought I was in shock, but I was actually praying. So that's the right time to shoot the guy. So nung inaabot na daw niya yung water and medyo umangat na yung knife sa chest ko, that's when he shot him 4 times. It was so loud. Wala nga siyang 1 meter away from me, I think. Sa right side ko lang nung inaabot niya yung water sa hostage taker. So I never saw the actual shooting. I never saw how the hostage taker fell down because I was blindfolded. So linabas ka agad ako noon nung pagkatapos ng binarel yung hostage taker, and I just saw my shorts because I was in shorts and my legs with covered with blood. So that's all I saw. So, and then I was taken out. I was brought to the custodial office where they immediately checked me out. Kung my blood pressure, it shoot up. I think it became 170 over something. So nag-shoot up, and then meron silang portable ECG coming from the PNP, the PNP General Hospital. So they checked the condition of my heart. It was okay. So it was harrowing because I really thought it was my end. But before that, before the shooting, I was also talking to God. And I said, Lord, bakit naman ganito? Nagsakripisyo ako, 6 na taon, here. And then, ganun lang, that is how I would end all those sacrifices put to naught. Mamamatay lang pala ako ng ganito under the circumstances. So that was what was in my mind, and pleading with God. But the whole time, Howie, because in situations like that, it's either the fear would overwhelm you, or you overwhelm fear. You fight it off, and that's what I did. I fought off my fear by appearing to be not afraid. I was answering back. Sinasagot-sagot ko siya, yung hostage taker. Like for example, when he said, Ma'am, nasaan yung cellphone niyo? Dahil may tatawagan ako. May mga tatawagan ako. And then I said, wala akong cellphone. And then he said, imposible. Papatayin kita, ma'am, kung hindi mo ilabas ang cellphone. Sabi ko, kahit patayin mo ko, wala kang makikita dyan. Kahit maghapon ka, maghalungkat dyan sa mga things ko, wala kang makikita. So that's how I was talking to him, to show to him that I was not scared. But that's actually my way of fighting off tremendous fear. And all, because, if fear would overwhelm you, then you would not be able to think good. And you will, you might just pass out. So I was fighting fear by doing that, by answering back to my hostage taker.
Yeah, you were still rational and able to reason, no? So you had to have a certain calmness at that time, despite that situation. A lot of people would have been panicking. Sabi nyo nga, baka maraming tao na himatay na sa takot, sa nervyos, or even maybe just succumbed at that time because of that, no? So, wow, what a story. Thank you for sharing. And I hope you don't mind that I asked you to recall such a traumatic episode, no?
No, actually, when I was at the PNP General Hospital, a group of psychologists or psychiatrists checked out on me, and they were saying, Mom, okay, we don't see anything, we don't see any trauma in you. You were able to handle it well. But you see, Mom, one way of really getting out of that memory is to frequently talk about it, talk about the experience. And that's what I did. Anyone who would ask me, I would narrate the story. Even President Marcos, when he called President Bongbong, called through the phone.
He called you right after the incident?
Yeah, about
were
1 or
in the
2
hospital.
hours. When I was at the custodial office before I was brought to the hospital, Secretary Abalos visited me, and he said, Mom, the president want to talk to you through my phone. So I said, yes, of course. So he nangumusta siya. Pinakwento rin niya sa akin, although not really detailed. So he was shocked because he thought it was just an attempt, a hostage-taking attempt. He said, you were really taken hostage. Yes, sir. And then lalo siyang na-shock nung kinento ko na I was blindfolded, I was hand-tied and feet-tied. So that's the advice of the psychiatrist. Just keep on narrating it to anyone who would want to hear that story. It's part of your recovery from the trauma. Although he said, well, hindi ka halata na you went through that ordeal.
So I just wanted to ask about this call from President Marcos. No, so he called to show his concern. Ganun ba yon? Or to ask you?
Yes, yes, he was really very concerned that something like that would happen to somebody like me. That I'm supposed to be a high profile detainee there, and in fact, he offered to transfer me to another. He said that if you want, we can transfer you to a safer place because we want you safe and secure. And then, but it's your decision. If you want to stay, it's okay. We will just beef up your security. So my decision was that I better stay here because I'm familiar already with the environment here and with the people here.
Okay, nung pinalaya kayo nung November last year, well, you were released on bail for one of your cases, no? Sabi niyo nga na quit na kayo dun sa dalawang kaso. Nagpasalamat kayo kay Pangulong Marcos, no, for respecting the rule of law and the independence of the judiciary, no. So you don't think that you were released also for political reasons?
I don't really think that. Well, I must admit that yes, the posturing of the BBM government with respect to my case, they'd rather not touch or meddle with the case. Because unlike before, I have information, I have sources telling me that really President Duterte through Senator Bongo would influence certain judges. And I think that's one of the reasons why most of the judges inhibited themselves from the case. Either they opted for early retirement or inhibited themselves just to avoid the pressure, just to avoid the cases. Now, with President Marcos, there was no such effort to influence the courts to rule against me. But I could feel that maybe they know that I deserve to be released, that I don't deserve to be in jail. So whether or not they did something, I don't know. To hasten or to facilitate my release, I really don't know. But what one thing is sure, since the judge was left on his own volition to decide the case on the merits, it was easier for him to do so with Duterte out and then the president not meddling in a negative way. So it was easier for the judge because that was not possible when Duterte was still the president. What judge would go against his will to keep me and let me rot in jail? That's what he said, right? That he would want me rot in jail. So now that Duterte was not there and President Bongbong did not meddle, then it was definitely easier. The independence of the judiciary was upheld and respected, and so was the rule of law, and the truth came out.
Okay, but by not meddling and then allowing the judiciary to make a decision, I guess based on the merits of the case, that's being interpreted by many, of course, as you know, in a political way. No, parang that's one of the signs daw of this crack in the alliance. Kasi kung talagang gusto ng administrasyon na patibayin itong alliance or ipagpatuloy itong alliance, then they would have kept you in jail. They could have found a way to keep you in jail. But now you're free, and you're now being cited as a reason why this alliance is cracking up. Kasi nga, you were jailed during the Duterte administration, which didn't like you. And now you're saying that, after this hostage situation, President Marcos reached out and expressed his concern and even made this offer of moving you to another facility and then chose not to meddle. Whereas before, sabi nyo nga, the previous administration was meddling. So hindi nag-meddle, napalaya kayo. So ano nga nagkakaroon ng mas malaking implication ito, as you know, no, beyond your own case.
Yeah, I would not deny the fact that the cracks then, ngayon, all out na, di ba? All out hostility na, antagonism. It seems unredeemable, the division between them. But back then, the cracks were showing already. In last quarter of last year, the cracks were showing already. That was a factor. I will not deny that. The judge could see that Duterte would have no influence already. And he could see that this government is not bent on keeping me in jail. Maybe he saw it through. There was no explicit pronouncement from anyone in government, especially the president, that he would want me released, because their statement was just, the case is now with the courts. Because, I had information also that every time the president was abroad for official trips, my case would always be mentioned on the sidelines of his meeting with heads of state and other high officials of foreign governments. But his answer would always be, according to my sources, the case is now with the courts. Let the court decide it. So while there was no explicit pronouncement about, I want him released, I think the courts got the point. Do what is right, do it, decide on the basis of merits, and we will not make your life difficult. So there was an indirect message to the court or to the judge. I would not deny that.
Yeah. Okay. Nabanggit niyo yung itong this international lobbying on your behalf, no? Because you were in prison for nearly 7 years and became known as one of the most prominent prisoners of conscience in the world, no? I mean, you became famous. You became famous for that. And then nung nirelease ka late last year, you said that one of your priorities now as a free person is accountability, not just for what happened to you, but for all the killings that happened during the Duterte administration. And you were going to assist the International Criminal Court, yung ICC. But this was back in November, no? So now that you're in the real world, you're dealing with, having to make a living and running a household and taking care of your cats. I mean, ganun pa rin ba yung inyong priority and perspective? Yun pa rin ang gusto nyong gawin, using your prominence and stature and whatever platform you have internationally to seek accountability through the ICC.
Ganun pa rin, Howie. Accountability for the killings, the thousands of killings under that sham war on drugs, and at the same time accountability for what they did to me, the persecution, the oppression. They deprived me of prime years of my life. Almost 7 years is almost 7 years. It's no joke. I could have done a lot. I could have performed fully my functions and duties as then senator, but it became so limited because I could only file bills and resolutions, and I could not participate in deliberations, in debates. I could not cast my vote on important legislative measures. So pareho. I've been monitoring, of course, very closely the developments of the ICC, and I could see that they're wrapping up already their preliminary investigation, and therefore the issuance of the warrant of arrest is not far-fetched. The issuance of the warrant of arrest anytime would be a reality. So yan pa rin, because they did this to me because of that core advocacy of mine, because I had the gall to have him investigated In 2009, when I was with the CHR, I had him investigated for the DDS killings. In 2016, when he started this killings, this Tokhang killings, then I had him investigated also by the Senate by filing that resolution barely 13 days after his assumption to power. So this is the root of my oppression, my fighting in behalf of the helpless, powerless, voiceless victims of the drug war killings. So how could I not stop pursuing that? Now that I am free, I would really want Mr. Duterte and his cohorts held accountable by the ICC, which has the expertise and the determination, the firm determination to do its job, something that is not being done under any domestic mechanism of ours.
I wanted to ask you that, attorney, because we were previously talking about your faith in the judicial system, and that's why you returned home to face the music. Nakulong kayo at you followed the rules, and then now you're saying you were released because the judicial system worked in your case. Nagkaroon ng respect for rule of law. You praise the Marcos administration for that. So, yun ang gusto ko maintindihan dito, because the ICC is supposed to step in when there's the failure of the state, to deliver justice. But now that you think that the judiciary is showing some independence, why rely now on the ICC when you've shown so much faith in our judicial system?
There may be an apparent inconsistency, but there is no real inconsistency with such a position, Howie. Why? Because, yes, the ICC under the complementary rule can intervene if the state is unable or unwilling, genuinely, to do an investigation. So it's more of a case-to-case basis. We're talking here about the accountability of Mr. Duterte and the likes of Senator Bato de la Rosa, the chief enforcer of the Tokhang killings. Now, is there any domestic body, court, officer, any domestic mechanism who's now running after them? They're not even investigated by any investigative body like the NBI, PNP, or whatever. The DOJ has also not filed any case against Mr. Duterte and Senator Bato. So that is a clear demonstration of unwillingness and inability to investigate these officials with the highest responsibility for the killings. So ICC is well within its rights, is well within its mandate to meddle or to intervene. So there's no real inconsistency in that, Howie.
So what is the likelihood that na ma-aresto siya talaga? And how does the current Marcos Duterte feud affect the chances of a Duterte arrest if the ICC issues an arrest warrant?
I could see that that's one of the reasons why nagwawala na si Duterte. Out and out na yung antagonism niya kay President Marcos. Because I think he suspects that the BBM and his administration are really cooperating with the ICC. Maybe not yet in the full extent of the full idea of cooperation. Maybe he felt that ultimately the president would order the enforcement of the arrest. It's a matter of political will, actually, on the part of BBM, if he's going to do that. Either he would not meddle with the ICC in enforcing the warrant of arrest, or give orders to appropriate authorities like the PNP to cooperate and to serve the warrant of arrest. So you're correct that it does not necessarily mean that when a warrant of arrest, an international warrant of arrest, will be will be served right away. But you know, the mere issuance of warrant of arrest would have so big an impact if that happens. It's a huge impact on our well-being as a society. That here finally justice is coming for the victims of the drug war killings. Now, the enforcement of the warrant of arrest is another matter, but it will limit the movements of Duterte because he cannot just go anywhere, especially in the state parties of the Rome Statute. There are 123 state parties to the Rome Statute. So any of those countries, if he goes there, are actually obliged to enforce the warrant of arrest. The same thing with us. We are obliged to serve the warrant of arrest, even if we are no longer a member of the ICC or a state party to the Rome Statute because of the withdrawal in 2018 by Duterte from it. So, but we're still under obligation to cooperate for the investigation on crimes that happened at the time that we were still a member state. And that was in 2011 when we acceded to the Rome Statute, up to 2019 when the withdrawal became effective. That's clear in the Rome Statute, notwithstanding, the pronouncements that we cannot cooperate because the ICC no longer has jurisdiction. That's not accurate. We are still obliged to cooperate in the investigation over crimes against humanity that happened during the time that we were still a member state.
Attorney De Lima, I want to wrap up by asking you, because you've served in government for a long time, no? Under different administrations. You were chair of the Commission on Human Rights. You were Secretary of Justice. You were a senator. How do you view how our culture and society have changed over that period of time, especially in the context of its seemingly widespread acceptance of extrajudicial killings during the time of President Duterte? People were actually applauding, they were cheering on, these killings, which shocked, certain people, a lot of people also, but there were a lot of people who felt it was the right thing to do, So parang nagkaroon ng something cultural was also going on, Now, so you've had a chance to kind of reflect on all of this, being in prison for a long time and being a victim yourself, I mean, any thoughts you want to share about what is happening to our society? Can it recover from that? Can it change for the better? What do you think?
It's really frustrating and disappointing that we had that culture under Duterte, acceptance of the wrong things. As if the Filipino were placed under the spell of this demagogue, that all of a sudden it was all right to see killings, just that, unjust and extrajudicial killings. Now we have to put blame on the Frankenstein that is the social media. The social media is the culprit in all of this, aside from Duterte himself, who exploited certain situations in our country, and he was speaking the language of the masses who would enjoy his toxic language. So it was disappointing and frustrating. But again, just like my attitude towards the justice system, I never lost faith in the Filipino people because inherently they know what is right, what is wrong. It's just that certain circumstances in the political milieu would compel them to go by the wrong side because they were manipulated. People who were so expert in manipulating the mindset and the attitude of the masses. So they were also victims of all of this. So I never lost faith in the Filipino people, no matter how frustrating it was.
Well, on that hopeful note, Attorney De Lima, we want to thank you and wish you much luck in your future missions. Thank you for sharing and for standing up for principle. Former Senator and prisoner of conscience, Leila de Lima, and now a free woman. Mabuhay po kayo at maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat, Howie. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Howie Severino. Check out the Howie Severino Podcast. New episodes will stream every Thursday. Listen for free on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and other platforms.